everybody? Aaron here from Movie Battleground, and I'm bringing you guys a special video today. We are the first ever official ranking special. Now, normally, these types of ranking specials are going to be just the top 10 ranks. However, because we are starting the new league and every player, for the most part, has only had one match, I decided, and the group as a whole decided, that we were going to do every single player. We're going to talk about every single player, where they're ranked. We're also going to talk about how the system works. You guys have a proper, defined definition of how the ranking system works. And we're also going to talk about some upcoming matches in the future and get you guys excited for some of those. But, I have some people joining me up first. One of the admins of Movie Battleground, Subrath Sharma. Subrath, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just really excited to, get this ranking special going. Been waiting for it.
All right, and also joining us, we have another one of the admins, Matt Beer. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great, I wish I was inside. It's a little chilly out here, but that's all right. I'm just excited to see where everybody's at because I have no clue. I have a feeling my rankings and your rankings are going to be a tad bit different, but that's all right. They're going to be similar, but a little different.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who officially knows where everybody is. That's teamwork right there, guys. And also joining us, we have a special guest joining us in this video, Andrew Hayes. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Curious to see where everybody lands, especially myself. Just here to have a great time.
Yeah, we needed someone with high energy because Evan couldn't be here, so,
I can yell. I have no problem yelling.
You can yell the most out of all of us.
I probably could yell pretty hard.
Where's Brian? He can yell.
True.
As your match proved, yes, Brian can yell.
He can entertain.
He can wear a creepy mask.
All right, so so before we get into the actual rankings themselves, let's go ahead and talk about how the ranking system works. So the way that it works is it's based on an accumulation of points. It's based both on win-loss, and it's also based on individual performance. So here's the way that it breaks down. If you get a win in your match, you get 3 points added to your total. If you get a knockout, that's a bonus 3 points added to your total. For the winner of the main game, which means you win either 4-0 knockout or win 3-1 in the main portion of the match, you get an extra 2 points. If the game is tied 2-2 going into the speed round, each player added to theirs instead of 2 going to one player. If you are the definitive winner of the speed round, meaning you win either 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, or 3-0, if there's ever a possibility of a 3-0, I honestly can't remember, or 2-1, or multiple different possibilities that you could win. That's an extra point added to your total. And then finally, for individual round performances, if you win a main game fight, you get 1 point added to your bonus. Speed round fight, you get 1 point added to your bonus, simply because I feel the speed round is a bit harder to win than the main game because you don't have time to prepare, you don't have a lot of time to argue. So to really give out a convincing argument in that and pull that one out, you deserve a little bit more of a bonus for that one. But then in saying that, the reason I reward more points for winning the main game than the speed round is because the main game lasts longer, so you have to have the endurance to actually keep arguing and win your fights. Because as we've seen in some of our matches, I think there are some matches where some players may have given up part of the way through, or, sometimes or in the team matches case, sometimes you just want a sandwich that long that you get hungry. All right, so with
hashtag watermelon shit.
That was something else. That was something else, man. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the official rankings. So here's the way that it works. We do have multiple ties within ranking. And the way that these, obviously, these will eventually fix themselves. I don't think there's any way that you have two players that over and over again hit the same amount of duplicate performances. But if for some reason that does happen, when it comes tournament time, is to fix them. So that's how we'll handle ties in this. So starting off, tied in 13th place, we have the unfortunate 3 people who have been knocked out in the league so far: Malcolm Lay, Subrath Sharma, and Max Vincent. I believe that's how you say his last name. Announced that a win loss of 0-1. They did not score any points within their game, which resulted in a 4-0 knockout, and they currently have a points total of 0. We have one of those players with us here today, Subrath. Do you have anything to say about maybe your performance within that match, and you look forward to your next match?
Yeah, I mean, it was my match against Evan, and I mean, I have a particular reason why I lost that match. It was like, I mean, it was no excuse. I was really in a rush and all the problems I had, but yeah, I mean, Evan got the jump on me from the first get-go. I mean, I didn't really think that he had that much, skill, debating skill in him. So I got surprised, and the following 3 rounds, it follows the same path. I mean, the same type of destruction that he caused. So like I got panicked, and I mean, basically I screwed up.
All right, and as we'll talk about later, because like I said, towards the end at the rankings, we're not only going to talk about some of the bigger matches we have coming up, but we're also going to talk about each one of our 4 individual matches that we have coming up, and discuss that. So we'll talk about your match coming up later in the video. Coming in at number 12, showing unfortunately that admins know how to play the game, although this is completely unfair to him. Number 12 is Matt Beer. Matt has one of 0-1. The only reason he is above the other players is because he was able to score 1 main game point, which allowed him to avoid the knockout. But unfortunately, he wasn't enough for him to pull out the win in that match. And I just have to say, and I wanted to say this on the 3 players who got knocked out. Subrath, obviously, I think we can say that Evan was the clear favorite in that match. With Max, I think Linus was the clear favorite in that match. I just want to say, and I said this in the match itself, Malcolm is a hell of a fighter who went up against someone who is extremely good. Opponent that got matched up against a great opponent and unfortunately took a knockout loss. But Matt, let's talk about some behind the scenes stuff here. That match was originally supposed to be myself and Manning, and due to some last minute stuff, I had to back out. What was the time span between you writing your answers and you playing the match, like a half hour or something?
If that. It was very, very tight, and I was like, okay, let's just come up with something. Let's just take things out of our ass and let's go. But I know I'm a lot better than that. Obviously, give me more time. I think if it was like a week ahead, or if I had as much time as you, could be a different result. It's just I had to like come up with things on the spot, and I think that kind of clouded my head a little bit. Like I was choosing movies I'd never seen before. So
yeah, that never helps the argument, unfortunately. Andrew, anything to comment? We'll go back since I'm doing a great job at hosting. I skipped over your guys, and you're here for a reason. Andrew, we'll start with you. Any 3 Dow, and then anything to say on Matt?
I think given more time, Matt could really prove himself, and that he still got a point, and he had very little time to prepare. I think that's honestly pretty impressive. I certainly know I couldn't do that. And I think given more time, he could be a real force in this league.
All right. And then anything to say on the 3 players that got knocked out?
Sometimes, things just don't go your way. They were off, like you said, against real tough people. And, go better their way next time.
No, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done saying something anyway. So.
Okay, and then Subrath, anything to say on that?
I mean, I was the judge for that match, and I have to say, like, it was really tough judging both of them. They both had really good arguments, but like, I mean, it was very difficult for me. I mean, when he got that point, it was a really that was 50-50 for me. That second question regarding what was the question again? Like best foreign actor would debut in Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah, the best foreign actor debut.
Yeah, I mean, basically Matt and Manning, both of them went head to head in that round. I was like, I really have to think a lot on this, but I don't have a lot of time. And yeah, basically, I mean, Matt won it because like one argument he got, which I mean, it was really tough to be honest. Like he played really well, but if he had more time, I would agree with what he's saying. If he had more time, he would have performed a lot better. Actually, he would win.
All right, and like I said later, we'll talk about Matt's next opponent later. Moving on to the next person coming in at number 11, we have Brian Fernandez. Brian is 0-1. He scored he scored 2 main game points and has a total points score of 3, getting 2 for each of his wins and then 1 for tying Andrew in that match. Andrew, as his opponent from that match, what do you have to say on Brian's performance and anything in the future that he may do?
I think he did honestly really good in the main game. What I think really killed Brian's game was unfortunately the speed round, because it was tied 2-2 going into the speed round, but what really killed him is I don't think he was good enough in the speed round. Hopefully in his next match, because I do really like him as his first opponent, I would like to see him do pretty good. But I think if he could do better in the speed round, he could be a real big player in this league.
Yeah, and obviously, as the person that judged that match, obviously I'm the one that gave Brian those 2 points. So again, I would say a weakness of his is the speed round. You definitely got him there. But Brian did a really good job arguing in his main game. And obviously I will say that, stats wise, it was 2-2, but if we remove that clusterfuck that was the which you won, technically Brian was 2-1 up on you. He's definitely a strong arguer. I think if he just learns to finish out that speed round and finish the game strong, and then maybe focus a little less on the jokes and a little more on the argument while it is entertaining, I think it'll definitely help him win the matches. Because I think sometimes his arguments would get a little lost in his attempts to entertain people. And while it was entertaining as hosting that match and being a part of it, rein it in a little bit, and I think you'll definitely see some good performances out of him. Subrath, Matt, anything to add on this?
I mean, Brian is like, you want to go first?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. No, I mean, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, like I was saying, I do think Brian's going to be a good opponent in this league. I don't know if he's up there to where he can win it all, but I do think he's in a contenders area. He's going to be like that team, or like an NBA team that gets all the way to the conference finals and just can't get to the finals. But I still think he's going to cause a lot of problems for people in his matches.
Definitely. Subrath, anything to add?
I mean, basically, Brian. We're talking about Brian, just to be clear, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Specifically, Brian. Andrew comes later.
I mean, what I remember from that match, that like basically, I mean, both of them went really hard on each other on their arguments, but Brian was he mostly just does more entertaining, which is like, I think sort of distracted himself. I'm not sure if you guys agree on it, but I thought like he sort of like did too much dramatics, and he didn't really focus on his arguments. But I think he's gonna with that type of personality, he could also do a lot of damage, like put people off for some arguments, like something like that.
Definitely. All right. And so with that, we're gonna technically into the top 10, although with the different ties, I don't know off the top of my head where the top 10 starts, but we're gonna have number 10, Chance Ellison. Chance is currently 0-1. He had one main game point in that match, and he had one speed round point in that match, and that gives him a grand total of 3 points. Now, this is one of those situations where I can explain a little bit more about how we're differentiating in the ranking system. Both Brian and Chance have, however, Chance is ahead because he was able to get a speed round win, and because I put more stake in the speed round win, that's why he is ahead of him. Now, just to give it a little bit of a further, differential, if Brian had won a speed round question, he would be ahead of Chance because he won 2 main game rounds and tied him. But because he didn't have that speed round, that's what puts Chance ahead. So the more speed rounds you can win, of points that can boost you ahead of somebody in the rankings. But obviously, right now it's not as big a difference as anybody else. I'll start with this one. I was the fact checker in the Chance Greg match, and I think Chance was a good arguer. I think Chance's biggest weakness, and it specifically hurt him in that match, is, and this is not a down talk on Greg, but Greg is very passionate and Greg is very loud, and I think, especially in some quieter person, Greg tended to definitely over argue and just speak more than he did. And the problem is, if you're not prepared for something like that, that can definitely catch you off guard and that can definitely throw your game off. So I think Chance has the opportunity to do really well against a different type of opponent. But what could hurt him is, and I can't remember off the top of my head who his next opponent is, but we'll take a look at that later. If he goes against the same type of opponent, we'll have. But the biggest issue I noticed in that match was when you have someone like Greg, who's very loud and very passionate and very forward about his arguments, and you allow them to speak more than you, that's going to turn things in their favor in a way that you do not want to allow. So I think that's what the biggest weakness was there. Do any of you three guys have anything to add to that?
No, I completely agree with you with that. I think just he was up against the wrong opponent in Greg, because Greg is very, very good.
All right.
Anyone else? Like, if you put Chance against somebody else who wasn't as passionate or as good, I think he could have won. I think he's going to do pretty well overall, but he does have to get into it more. He needs to fight for it more than what he did in that match, because, yeah, he did get a speed round question, but every time he said something, Greg had like 5 punches on him. He's got to get into it more, I feel like, if he's going to do anything in the league. I think he'll do all right now. And if you put him against, like, Isaac Horvath, who did very well, obviously, I feel like he would have had a better game against Greg, just because I don't think he was, like you said, I don't think he was ready for somebody who was like Greg, where he's just going to keep swinging at you. It's like Floyd Mayweather go up against a 12-year-old at times, because he's just going at you and you can't really do anything. So
definitely. Subrath, anything to add, or are you ready to move on?
I mean, basically what Matt said right there, what I wanted to say, but yeah, we can just move on.
All right, and
I mean, also I have to leave like right now, so like I'll let you guys continue with it.
You have to check out Subrath. All right, well, Subrath, sorry you couldn't be here that long. Thank you for joining us, though. Anywhere that people can find you?
Just follow me, and look out for me. I'm always on the Facebook page, Movie Battleground. Just make sure you guys follow, subscribe, and share this, like, all these matches, which we already have. Like, how many matches have we put out? 8, 9? How many matches?
Yeah, we're. I don't think we're quite at double digits yet, but we've put a couple out.
Yeah, man. Like, yeah.
Obviously.
Just you guys just watch those matches. I mean, they're really fun to watch. Yeah. That's all.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Subrath.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the number 9 spot. And this is, we have a string of ties coming up here, and this is the first one. Chris Clark and Zach Ford. Both competitors are 0-1. They each scored 1 main game point. However, they both scored 2 speed round points, which gave them both the victory, a 2-1 victory over their opponent. Altogether, that adds up to a total of 6 points each, and the identical stats tie them at 9. Into Zach, I just want to address something here. For those of you who may or may not know, due to his activities with Take 3 and just lack of availability, Chris Clark has made the decision to leave the league for the moment. He will not be participating in any more matches. That is why originally we were supposed to have 2 matches go up this week, the Evan and Luca match and the Subrath and the Subrath versus Clark match. Clark made the decision to bow out of the league, which meant Subrath. We rescheduled Subrath with a new opponent. If he ever does want to come back and participate, we are not going to wipe his stats. His stats will still be there. He'll still stay on the ranking sheet. He just obviously won't advance any further because he's no longer with us. But do you guys have anything to say about Clark's match?
Yeah.
I think Clark had oh, you can go. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, Clark, I think he's a really good opponent too. It's just his opponent, like with Chance, is like top notch. It's definitely like top tier. He's in the tier 1 area. But Chris Clark did really well, and it is unfortunate not to have him compete for a while at least. I do think he'll come back once, you know, he has more time where he can get some matches in. But yeah, I mean, it's just depending on how long he's, you know, gone, he's just going to keep going down the rankings over and over again. So I hope he does come back. I think he will come back. It's going to be a while, though.
Definitely. Andrew, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I just want to say it really, really stinks that he had to leave. You know, I can completely understand, you know. But he was honestly someone that I was hoping to face in the future. Hopefully, I could still face him in the future if he does decide to come back. I thought he had potential, and that's why I wanted to face him, because I thought he would have been a good opponent.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing to say is Clark put up a really good performance in his match because obviously Luca did win the main game 3-1 against him, but kind of like in Andrew's match against Brian, where, you know, obviously every match statistically counts, but I kind of call that last round bullshit in that match. The third round in the Clark-Luca match, I kind of call bullshit on because that question went really haywire really fast. And it's just one of those things where it's like we're finding the foundation of the game, and sometimes shit happens that you know, you wish you could go back and fix, but we can't.
Forever, according to movie Battleground, Mission Impossible is the best 90s movie or 90s action movie.
Hey man, it's all about the lack of argument.
It's all about Brian arguing for me.
But obviously, like I said, Clark won the speed round. He definitely had his strength. And if you guys did see, and this match will be spoiled, but if you did see Luca's second match, you know that, you know, Luca's weakness is a little bit in that speed round. So that was no fluke on Clark. Clark was good at the speed round and had Luca beat out there. It's just unfortunate he couldn't pull that last question, and it gave Luca the win. But obviously, Clark, available. We'd love to have you back in the league someday, but if not, thank you for at least participating in one of our inaugural matches. It was a pleasure having you. But let's talk about Zach Ford, who is ranked alongside him at 2-1. As somebody who judged that match, Zach is a good fighter. Obviously, again, the speed round is definitely where he found his strength, and the reason I'm willing to say the speed round is a legitimate strength is because I don't think Jeremy was a slouch in the speed round. I think Zach legitimately out-argued him twice in a row there. And I just think Zach's biggest issue in that match wasn't, and he did admit this at least once or twice in the video, he was arguing on a question that was just a weakness for him, something he hadn't seen, something he couldn't argue back against, something he wasn't comfortable with. And I think that is a weakness. Obviously, the competitors have no control over the questions that we throw at them, and we do try to keep the questions as top goal and as general as possible. I'm the one that does most of the question writing, and that's what I'm looking for when I am doing the questions. So it's just unfortunate for him that he was in a match where he wasn't the most comfortable with what he had to argue with. But I would like to see him get in a match where he has a little more comfortability and a little more, you know, a little more confidence maybe going in against his opponents. and see what he could do. Guys, anything to add?
I mean, yeah, Greg, speed round is where he shined, I think, in that match. Jeremy is also really good, but I do think if a couple more points were made in certain areas, Greg or Zach would have won that match. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a formidable opponent, and I'll have things to say later about a special match for him that he'll get to be able to grace. So, yeah, that's what I got to
Spoiler
say.
alert. Andrew,
Yeah,
anything to add?
A match you may or may not be talking about.
Anything to add, man?
No, I think both Zach are really probably one of my favorite matches that I've seen because just how just good it was. Both opponents were good. Zach did get a little bit unlucky, I think, but I really do enjoy seeing someone where their strength is the speed round because the speed round is no joke. It's like really hard.
Yeah, it definitely is. You got to be quick on your feet to get through that with a victory. But obviously, I'm saying hope he has a match later because every player we're talking about will get a second match. So
It'll be a third match.
He already has 2 scheduled actually. We'll talk about both of those later.
Oh.
Yeah, every player gets a singles match. If he's doing anything outside of that, that's on his own time. But so we're gonna go up next, and again, this will allow me to address something, another component of the ranking system. Tied at number 8, we have walk killers Mike Hanley and Medee Raymond. Both players are 0-1. They each have 3 main game points scored and 1 speed round question. And they have a total of 9 points. Now, this will allow me to explain how the team matches factor into the ranking. Because, yes, I am including team matches for performance in the matches. For the main game portion of the match, if you win, both players get benefited from that statistic. Speed round, however, if you win your speed round, only you get the benefit of winning that speed round. So the reason they each have 1 and not 2 is because Medee won one of his and Mike won one of his. And that's how they each got 1. Now, the reason that they have 9 points and are ranked a little bit higher than the other players is because, and this is something that I will do, and whether or not people call it unfair or a little off kilter is your own thing, but this is what I'm doing. Player who participates within a specialty match gets a 3-point bonus added to their score. And the reason that I'm doing this is it's kind of a reward for group involvement and involvement within the league. Because if you guys have been a part of the league since the beginning, we have upcoming, because Halloween falls on a Tuesday this year, so we're doing a horror-only Halloween special. The 2 players involved in that, who we'll talk about later, I put up a post saying who wants to be involved. They were the first 2 to comment. The 4 players on the team match, we put up posts saying who wants to be involved. They were the ones who got involved. The next team match we have set up, I put up a post saying these are the 2 winners are playing. We need 2 more opponents. They were the first 2 to put their names in. They get involved. So it's a bonus for being active on the page and participating in these events. And obviously, the way that I'm going to try and balance it out is, and this is for the future, this is a permanent thing. If a player ties with another player because of the 3-point bonus, they will be ranked below that person. So let's say, technically speaking, actually, we have the next 2 players that we'll talk about. Jeremy and Greg both have 10 points. Let's just say for whatever reason, they only scored 9 points in their match, 9 total points in their match. Mike and Medee, and they were identical stats. D below Jeremy and Greg, simply because they only have 9 points because they get the 3-point bonus. So it does give you a boost in the rankings, But if it comes down to tiebreakers on who stands where, you will not get put ahead of somebody else because you have the 3-point bonus. It's just to get you up a little higher, but it will not push you ahead of somebody. And we do actually have an example of that in the rankings later on in the match, or later on in the video. But Andrew, obviously, as member of Team White Russian with Henry Sanchez, you participated against these two. Anything to say about them?
They were honestly really, really tough opponents. Both of them are fantastic. Me and Henry made it out with the victory just because how good good they were. And Medi is no joke in that speed round.
Yeah, he's dangerous.
I mean, they're both. Yeah, they're just both really good. I hope to see them as a team again in the future. Because that was honestly that. I'm being biased, but that was my favorite match. Like out of everything, it was definitely my favorite one to compete in as of now. So they are both no joke, and I can't wait to see what both of them do in the singles.
All right, and Matt, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like Andrew said, that was probably the most fun I've had watching a match and editing a match. Yeah, that was an adventure. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I thought everybody brought their A game, especially with the circumstances where you didn't get to choose. It was more of a, okay, first two are here, and then, Andrew and Henry, were put together because certain things happened we won't get into at this moment, unless Aaron wants to. But
I mean, basically what happened was because it's not that big a thing. It wasn't bad. No, it's not bad. We're making it sound like somebody died or something. No,
we had
the original basically because of a Halloween Horror Night style of scheduling issues. It originally started out with myself and Brian Fernandez playing, and then we switched dates, and our original host Greg had to drop out, and I had to step in as host, and we brought Andrew in to play with Brian, and then we switched dates again, and Brian had to, and as a favor, Henry stepped into play to make his debut, and well, that's history right there. But yeah, no, that was not fun. I don't look forward to doing that again.
Exciting. It was like popping a pimple. It wasn't fun at the time, but you'll remember it.
I pray to God the next one goes better. Linus, Zach, if you watch this, goddamn you better have open schedules.
I'm gonna beat your ass if you don't.
I will.
And if you do, me and Henry will beat your asses.
We'll get to that smack talk a little later. So moving on to the next one, we already spoiled it, but tied at number 7, the first of the winners, we have Jeremy Adams and Greg Weinstein. Both gentlemen won their match 1-0 records. They each scored 3 main game points, taking the main game. However, each one of them only scored 1 speed round question. Greg drew his speed round with Chance. Jeremy lost his speed round to Chance. Right? No, Jeremy lost his speed round back. Wow, that's bad. I can't tell it's late for everybody if Matt was not giving it away with his video. But no. And so both have a grand total of 10 points for their ranking. We'll start with Matt this time. Anything to say about Jeremy or Greg?
I think honestly, Greg, going with him first, he's like in my tier 1. I think he literally could beat about anybody he goes up against, just based on how he just attacks and attacks and attacks like over and over again. Mm-hmm. So if Chance just didn't get at one point, he easily got that. I think circumstances were different. Jeremy also was really good, but I think a weakness of his is maybe he was caught off guard by Zach, because Zach is really good with the speed round. But yeah, Jeremy's also a real strong opponent, and I think he's going to go pretty fun too. I think everybody, like the rankings, all do something in this league. Sorry, I got.
You get there?
Yeah.
You're a little cutty. All right,
Better
while we
spot.
get that figured. Oh, you there?
Oh, I'm here. I can hear everything you're saying.
Okay. Do you have anything more to add, or just show us the beautiful night sky? It's okay.
Okay.
All right, Andrew. Anything to add about these two opponents or these two guys?
Honestly, think that Greg is the person to beat in this league. I think I think he's the best at anyone. And when the champion is eventually decided, he's my pick to be the first one.
Over
And
yourself.
honestly,
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the best. I mean, I'm not gonna be biased here. You know, when the time comes, if I eventually face Greg, I'm gonna be very nervous because Greg is just that damn good. But Jeremy, I really respect him. I think he's really good. And he's another person that I eventually want to face because good he is and how much respect I have for him. I want to face him. But, you know, that's not up to me. That's up to you guys. So.
Definitely. All right, so moving on, and I just want to say again, both of them are good competitors. Greg's biggest strength is he is very loud, he's very passionate, he's very aggressive, and that's honestly what we look for in fighters. That's the kind of fighter that we want, and I think he came off looking real and quieter, like Chance. I want to see him face somebody loud. I want to see him face someone like a Henry or like an Evan. I was gonna say who's loud.
Him and Henry should face because that would be match.
Yeah, that'd be something else. But we're gonna go ahead and move on. Coming in at number 6, for the first time in a long time, only one player here, Manning Franks, who has a record of 1-0. He scored 1 speed round point to take the win there, giving him a grand total of 11 points. The only reason he is above the other two is because he got that victory in the speed round. Matt, we'll go ahead and start with you as the person who played him. Anything to say about Manny's performance?
Wound right now. No. I think he's obviously I think he's really good. Speed rounding caught me off guard because I didn't know he could speak that fast. Because I think I usually am, whenever I'm in a conversation, but then he starts confessing, like, oh, okay, why did I choose this movie I never saw? But no, he's really good. I'm very curious to see how well he does against someone who has more than 30 minutes to compete. Obviously, I think he can hold himself.
Definitely. And we will be talking about his match later on. Andrew, anything to add about Manning?
Manning is someone I really respect in all forms of movie competition. I was really impressed by him, even considering the fact that his opponent had little to no time. I am curious to see how he does in his next match. And, I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we'll definitely be talking about that later. As the person who was supposed to face Manning, thank God. I would have lost, definitely. I was writing my arguments for that match, and all I could think was, I'm still gonna lose. No, he's definitely a great fighter. Look forward to seeing him in his next match. And up next, we have tied at number 5. And I'm gonna say these are the final, what we'll call first round players, just because everybody above them has a certain reason as to why they are ranked a little higher. But we have Linus Babcock and Isaac Horvat, who are both 1-0 with a knockout game point score to get the 4-0 victory. They have a total of 12 points. These two are both something else, and we'll save the chatter about them for a bit later, just because these two are going to be facing each other. And this is one of the big matches that we're going to talk about specifically, because this is very interesting. We have not had two players with a knockout face each other, and I think that'll be an interesting look at. So we'll save the discussion on them for just a little bit later. But with that, we're going to move on to number 4, and that person is Henry Sanchez. Now, with the caveat, Henry made his debut in the team match. And so that 3-point bonus is obviously why he is a little higher. Henry also played an extended format game, so he had more opportunity to score more points. With that being said, Henry still fucking killed it in that match. For someone who had the least amount of time out of all 4 players and be okay with his answers, he was able to fight him back every single one of them. And so I'm really excited to see him in a match where he has more time than, what Matt Beer had basically to prepare for his answers. But Henry's stats, he is 1-0. He scored 3 main game points and 3 speed round points in that match. Henry did not lose a speed round question in that match. Every time he fought, he won. And arguably, I'd say he was the MVP coming out of that match between the 4. He would be the MVP, in my opinion, simply because he did not lose a speed round. He could take on anybody there. And he has a total, including the 3-point bonus, he has a grand total of 17 points. Andrew, as his teammate, what do you have to say about Henry?
You say that he's the MVP of the match. If it were not for Henry, he absolutely killed it. He when he does eventually make his singles, he's a force to be reckoned with. I'm warning everybody right now, just look out for Henry, because he is amazing at this game. I'm lucky enough to be on the right side of Henry right now. And considering how little time we had to prepare our answers, because we had to change around some answers than the ones me and Brian originally discussed. We did keep a couple, but even then, we still had to discuss what we were arguing for those questions. But for the majority of them, we changed them around, and both, especially him, killed it. And, I think that says how we are as fighters, especially Henry, considering he had even less time.
Matt, anything to add about Henry's performance in that match?
He was phenomenal in that game, especially for the amount of time he has. And there's things I had to cut. I think that you'll remember, especially, Aaron, how passionate he got with certain things. That went so far I did have to remove it because...
I think I know what you're talking about. Are we talking about the early call?
The early call, yes.
That's exactly. Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so this was... in a way, I think I kind of pushed him here. This was basically, I can't remember which fight it was, but it was one of the fights, and...
I remember which fight it was.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
It was which 2 MCU actors should be in a movie together. And...
actors, and Matt cut this out of the original video, because there was honestly like close to 10 minutes of footage cut from that thing between our bullshitting and all this stuff.
I mean, just everything.
That was a fun match to record. But okay, no. So here's what happened. So
5 hours.
We were pushing hour 32 of that marathon, and what happened was
starving.
Henry and Medee was starving like an African child. Mike was bored, and everybody just wanted to go home. That was an awful joke. I apologize for that. But what happened was Henry and Andrew were starting their arguments off, and they couldn't remember what actors they'd chosen. And partially, it was originally partially meant to be for comedic effect, but also partially because I thought there's no way they can make a convincing argument out of this.
We ended up getting that one, by the way.
If they don't remember the answer. I called the fight before the fight happened and gave the point to Medee. So pissed over
We did
that
not have
shit.
it.
Well, in my defense, or in our defense, the only people I could remember were the ones me and Brian had discussed, and we
That is
had
fair.
did change it, and I couldn't remember. I mean, and I did try looking back to see if it was in the chat. It was not in any of the chats that we were in because we had discussed it. No,
that's in person.
Discussed it in person.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Look, I'll look back on it and say that was just the tiredness talking. That was a bullshit call on my part. But it was a call that was made, and Henry very vehemently challenged it and got very upset. And I think, honestly, it pushed him and drove him to win that fight specifically just to shut my ass up. Because if there's anything Henry would like to do, I'm pretty sure it's shut my ass up.
Or just shut anybody's ass up.
I mean, he was so heated already going in. It's like fired up, and he basically said his mom was a whore. And, that was like...
definitely something I wish we still had on footage because it was just it was interesting to behold there. But honestly, I had no clue that you cut that out just because when I started watching the replay, that match was so long. I was like, I've lived through this. I can't continue watching it again.
That match took about like 2.5 hours to record.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, and I think the video's like two. What is it? 2 something. It's 2 something. It's a movie.
It like no joke felt like we did it for 4 hours. Like that's how long it felt. I think a lot of it had to do. I think a lot of it had to do that we did There Will Be Trivia match right before, and all of us were in that chat.
Okay, so this is some inside. For those of you who may not know, Henry has a trivia league called There Will Be Trivia, which if we haven't praised him enough already, he actually does a really great job at running it. Definitely go check it out. But
especially with this team tournament coming up.
What happened was that morning, I had recorded a trivia match for him, so me and him were in a call. And then he was going to, and I think Andrew, you were in that call as well, right?
Yeah, I was. I'm most of the time I'm a co-host, unless right. So I'm a goon.
You were in that call with us.
Okay? Yes, I was in both calls.
And then once we finished recording my match, Henry was going to go record a match between Mike and Medivh. And I said to Henry, hey, since I'm with you guys, let me just stay in the call. I'll go silent, and we'll all stay together. And so we go to that match, and if you have seen the Mike and Medivh match of There Will Be Trivia, about halfway through, we lost our shits.
Yeah.
So we were already done going into. We're already done. Which, by the way, something interesting. I don't know how much. I can't remember how much Henry might have edited down that video, but there was a portion of that video when we lost our shit and we all just started laughing. Andrew, I don't know if
the aliens attacked us or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was something really stupid, but I don't know if I ever told you this. We did a pause on recording, and I muted my mic to say something, and then forgot to remute myself, but the entire rest of the match, I was just laughing at the stupid shit that happens, so there's just a random fifth laugh in the background. I don't know how Henry edited any of that, so my voice may still be in there, but if there's a lot of laughing happening, I'm probably a part of it. I'm just not on camera.
I mean, I think what started that madness was Medivh's watermelon shit. And then I remember some random noise happened during the middle of the match. It was like, it sounded like aliens were coming or something, or like that.
Yeah, it was something on Henry's end, and we just broke. We were done. And obviously the thing to do after that whole scenario in a half-hour match. That's the thing to do.
That's exactly how you do it.
That's exactly how we do that. That's how we're going to do all team matches in the future. At least an hour and a half of pre-discussion, and then the match.
And then what I think continued that madness was when I dropped my info list. If not, you won't line, which was simply amazing. And if I can give a little bit of insight on that line and why I said it, I tried to think of something funny. I simply couldn't, so I just went with it.
But that whole
basically,
day
we're gonna have the team matches, and then like 3 months later, we're gonna release the ultimate cut, which is gonna be an additional 5 hours long of just laughing
and making fun of Medivh's shirts. Nah, the watermelon shirt is great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure by the end of that match, Medivh was ready to eat his shirts because he started thinking they were real watermelons.
Yeah, he was about ready to quit by the end of that match. I still remember the line that made me crack up the most was we finally get to the final question, and Medici's like, "How much fucking longer is this? Like, how much do we have left?" Oh, that was a lot of fun. I both envy. I'm both looking forward and not looking forward to the next one of these, because it was such a nightmare behind the scenes, and then it worked out so perfectly that it's like,
hey,
okay,
everything happens for a reason.
It was kind of worth it in the end. I can only imagine how that match would have went if Brian was there. Like if we were all acting the way we were and Brian was there, that would have, jeez, that would have been something else.
It would have been worse. Are you kidding me? Brian's a great guy.
I would still be editing it.
That would have been so.
Yeah, Brian would be wearing his mask the whole time. Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't believe Matt actually edited this out, but I think the consolation and entire summary of that match is right at the start as I'm saying my name in the introduction. Henry starts making a face on camera that's covered in the match by the scoreboard, and I just went, "Fuck me."
Yeah, well,
that is what you're in for with that match.
Oh, Aaron had to mute all of us because there were so many times
we caused all sorts of issues because I started muting them, and then Henry started muting people, and then he muted himself, and it was
and then I muted Henry, and then Medivh muted himself.
I never apologized. Man, I never apologized. I'm so sorry. That was a nightmare for you.
It was a nightmare, but it was a pleasure. There's a reason why the unedited match is still on the channel, private.
Oh yeah, we need to put that up at some point.
It's for it got to be a subscriber special. That's the gift for all the subscribers.
That is something else. All right, so let's like that match. Henry's stats are never ending. Let's move on to the next person. That's a segue right there. Coming in at number 3, we have Evan DeGraff. Evan is currently 1-1 with a knockout. He has 5 main game points scored and 2 speed round points for a grand total of 18 points for his ranking. I'll start with this off. Being, undisputedly the most successful as of now of the admins, knocking out one of the admins. Evan is no joke, and I think his record doesn't necessarily do him justice. Even though 1-1 with a knockout is not an awful record, I still don't think it does him justice. He faced Luca in his second match, and Luca is an absolute juggernaut in that first round. But Evan proved that he can hang with the speed round, because that was my big question going into Evan's second match. We knew Evan could argue because he knocked out Subrath, but he'd never done the speed round. And my question was, could he hang in the speed round? And he most definitely did. And he made it a nightmare for Luca in that match. But so I definitely think Evan will do great in his next match. He's definitely got a good ranking. So we'll see how that goes in the future. Matt, why don't you go ahead and start with Evan? What do you think about his 2 performances so far?
I mean, obviously he's the first guy to have a knockout. Another fucking great. But yeah, he's the first person to have a knockout, which is obviously impressive. No matter who you play against, if you get a knockout, credit to that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't know what happened in his second match. I thought he actually was going to win. I actually had him winning over Luca with how Luca played in the speed round going in. If it was tied 2-2, yeah, Evan wins. But I mean,
yeah. And I will stand by the fact that there were a couple of close calls that I made in that match that went in Luca's favor, that I think one extra point on Evan's side would have turned it in his favor.
Yeah.
And obviously, Evan said at the end of the video that, he didn't agree with some of the calls that I made. And obviously, you don't want to lose. And obviously there will be certain adjustments that can be made. But I still think Evan's a great competitor. And I still think he has a shot at the title. Because, you can say what you want about who he faced. He has a knockout, and that's something only 3 players have done in this league. So that is still impressive.
Fine. I think he's going to get a title someday. I don't know when. That's be because we just have a lot of really talented people in there that, you know, as long as they keep winning, it's just going to keep knocking them down, and it's going to be harder for him to get back up. But I think if the cards, you know, are played right for him, I think he's going to, you know, somehow get a title. Be his first title, too. So
most definitely. Andrew, talk about Evan for a minute. What do you think about his two performances?
I honestly think he's fantastic at this game. You know, a knockout is a knockout. You can't take that away from him, and nobody will ever take that away from him because it's amazing to get a knockout like that. Great, you know, to shut somebody out like that. Even in his performance against Luka, he still did really good. And I agree that he has a very good chance of getting the belt. And I agree with Matt that even if he doesn't get the belt right away, he will eventually get it. It's a fact. And, you know, he is just awesome at this game. And whoever his next opponent is, you better watch out because I think he's just going to come back with a vengeance because of this loss. And you know, and I think he will come away with the win this next match. Then again, I don't know who his opponent is, so that can always change. But I do think that because he's just going to be so driven to win that he will win.
All right, and you know, like I said, Evan's a great opponent. I look forward to seeing what he does next. Moving on to the second place player of Andrew Hayes himself coming in at number 2. Andrew is currently 2-0. He scored 5 main game points, 2 speed round questions, and all including the 3-point bonus for the team match participation puts him at a grand total of 20 points. Andrew, go ahead and talk about yourself for a second, man. Talk about your, you know, reflect on your performances, reflect on what you maybe could improve on, what you think you did really good. And obviously, we're going to talk about your next opponent in just a little bit, so we'll get discuss that later. But go ahead, man.
I think that in my first match, I got very lucky in the speed round, and in my second match, I got very lucky that Henry was answering the speed round questions. But you know, I may not sound too confident. I do think a lot of luck went into me winning both times, but I mean that still doesn't take away from my performances. I think in both my matches, any argument that I lost was very close, and at least I could tell the ones that I was very, very passionate about, I ended up coming out with the win. If I could just be a little bit more passionate and a little bit more confident, especially in the speed round, because what killed me in the speed round in the second match, I think I jumped the gun a little bit on the answers when I could have chose a better answer. And if, like I said, if I'm just a little bit more confident and passionate in my answers, I think I could be a real big force to be reckoned with.
Obviously, we haven't seen Henry in a singles match, but I think out of the top 4, quite honestly, I think Andrew is the most rounded performer out of all of them. You know, he's been in 2 matches. We haven't seen him have an extremely weak moment yet. You know, obviously he got beaten out in the speed round in the second match, but in his first match he won it 2-0, so we know he can perform in the speed round. So I definitely think he's one of the title contenders. Honestly, and it's not just because you're here. I do think you're one of the title contenders, certainly because even though you may not necessarily be like number 1 in any certain category, I think being performer 2 or 3 in every category is better than being number 1 in a certain category. And I think that's your best thing, is that you're well-rounded enough that there are times where you will have a weakness in certain areas, but you can perform for the most part in every area. And I think that is a big help for you, and that'll be a big help in your future matches.
Nice.
So with that, we are going to move on to the final competitor, the number 1 ranked competitor, and that is fresh off his fifth Allen. Luka is 2-0. He has 6 main game wins and 2 speed round wins for a grand total of 20 points. Now, Andrew is not below him simply because of the team match bonus. He also statistically does have less main game wins than him, so Luka does earn the spot above Andrew. But if I can speak on a moment as someone who judged Luka to his second win, in the main game, Luka has the potential to go on and be possibly a champion. His weakness is the speed round. Both times he's been defeated in the speed round. If he had not been defeated, he would be a little higher than Andrew. He'd have some distance between him and Andrew. The good thing, however, is both have other matches scheduled, both have specialty matches scheduled, so they'll both get an opportunity to compete and prove which one of them is the better fighter. But if Luka doesn't improve on the speed round, it is him eventually. And that is just my thought. And I think on the main game, he is extremely good. Obviously, he won 3-1 in both matches. So I think if Luka can't improve on his speed, and that's why I'm saying the speed round is so important for him, because if Luka faces an opponent, it's like Matt said earlier. If Evan had gotten one of those other wins in that match and they went into that speed round 2-2, and a 4-2 loss for Luka. Luka either needs to get better at winning all 4 matches and sealing knockouts for himself, or he needs to get better at the speed round, because it's going to come back to hurt him in the future. But that is just my opinion. Matt, we'll go ahead and let you go ahead. What do you think about Luka?
Look, I think Luka's great. He knows the stuff. That's going to help him a lot.
Definitely.
I think what's going to hurt him, I think right now what's holding him back from his true potential is his speed round. He's got to improve it, because if he doesn't improve it, there's no way he's winning a title. He can't just rely on knockouts, you know. I mean, I think he can get a knockout at some point. I think he has the talent to get that speed round, you know, skill down. He's going to start losing pretty soon.
Definitely. And Andrew, he's the only person above you right now, man. He's your closest competitor. What do you have to say about him?
I rightfully so that he's above me. He is fantastic. I do agree he needs to get a lot better in that speed round, or else I don't think he will get a title. And that's such a shame, because he's just really, really good in the main game. Well, like you said, Evan ties it up. Everyone wins that game, you know. And it's a shame, because, you know, he was really good. I mean, both Evan and Luka are really good. But, yeah, if Luka could get better at that speed round, man, I better watch out. Everybody better watch out.
Most definitely. And guys, that is the ranking right now. And our top 5 is pretty impressive. Tied at 5th, Linus and Isaac, 2 knockout winners. At 4th place, Henry, an extremely impressive debut performance in that team match. Evan in 3rd, you know, he has the knockout win. He has a great performance against, you know, the current #1 contender. Andrew, 2 great, solid, all-around performances. And Luka, 2 extremely deserved main game victories. But obviously, you know, a little bit of work needs to be done on that speed round. But overall, I think our top 5 are great competitors, and everyone below them is a great competitor. You know, even the players that have lost have a chance to come back and definitely prove themselves and see what they can do in second matches. And that is going to lead us into the second part of this video. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run through every match we have coming up. Some of the matches we're going to stop and talk about, and we've already pre-picked those ones ahead of time. And then the other matches, I'll just throw it to the table. We'll pick a victor. All right, so we'll start up. So the next match we have coming out next Tuesday, we have Joey Morin versus Mike Hanley. Andrew, we'll start with you. Who do you think wins it?
I mean, both are really good, but I'm picking Mike based off of, because I've seen Mike compete more. I think Joey is a bit of an unknown. Not saying that he can't win it, because I don't know how he is as a competitor in this league. He could be, you know, fantastic. But just because I personally have competed against Mike and know how tough Mike is as a competitor in this league, I'm picking Mike.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, like Andrew said, Joey's unknown. We don't know much about him, and that could be something that he can use to his advantage against Mike. We know how Mike can compete, so maybe Joey needs to watch a little bit of some of the game footage or whatever. Based on what I've seen Mike debate. I haven't seen Joey debate. I'm gonna go with Mike on this one. If I've seen Joey debate, it could be completely different, but just under circumstances.
Yeah, and again, for the same reason, nothing against Joey, obviously. Just for a preface, because you guys do know we do pre-record these matches. We have not pre-recorded this one, so we're not bullshitting you with our reactions. We actually don't know who will win this match. But again, I am going to give it to Mike simply because, again, I've seen him fight, so I know that he can do a good job. And also, Medee is a very strong fighter, and I think he definitely was the standout of the two on that team. But in the rounds where Medee let Mike take point and take head fight, Mike definitely stepped it up and played the game well. And I think that combined with the experience, for Joey, this is a new experience. He hasn't had the chance to play, so he's going to be finding his way through the game. And I think that little extra edge is going to give Mike the victory. All right. Brian Fernandez versus Chance Ellison. Matt, who do you got winning?
Who was it again? Chance versus who?
Brian.
Now this one could be a little more difficult. And I feel like Brian has that thing that Chance, is weak fighting against. Brian has passion. He has that fiery rage. He's going to be comical, but I think he could use it at his advantage. So I'm going to go with Brian. I think he's a lot stronger than what his record and points are showing right now. It's just he's got to work on the speed round as well. So.
Fair point, but I'm actually going to go with Chance on this one, simply because I do agree with you. I do think if Brian turns down the humor and focuses more on the fight, he could pull out the victory. But I've yet to see him do that, so I don't know if he'll do that or not. I think Chance is definitely much more of a straightforward fighter, and I think he'll pull out the victory in this one. Andrew?
I agree with you. I'm going to go with Chance. Not by much, though, because I do agree with Matt. Loud talker, fast talker that Chance is pretty weak against. But the reason I'm giving it to Chance is sometimes Brian can shoot himself in the foot when it comes to arguing. I can recall at least 2 times in my match where I got the point simply because I was arguing a certain point, and he unintentionally helped me back up what I was saying. And I think that's a major problem. And I'm giving it the chance just based on that.
All right, fair point. Next match, Subrath Sharma versus Drake Fremsdorf, making his debut. Nothing against Subrath on this one. I think I'm going to give it to Drake simply because even though Drake is unproven and Drake has not participated in a match yet, Subrath was definitely a little weaker looking in his match. I think he'll stand more of a fight in this one than Evan, but I don't think he has enough in him to pull out the victory. And also, using his knowledge I have, Subrath has said that the next match that he loses, for the time being, will be his last match, as he wants to focus more on running the behind the scenes of the league rather than participating. So I think he's playing this match with one foot out the door already, and I think that may affect him. So I'm going to give the victory to Drake. Andrew?
I agree with you. And this is tough because Drake is the unknown, but I do feel like Subrath is one of the weaker guys. And like you said, he kind of wants to step back and do the behind-the-scenes stuff, so that may affect his play a little bit. So I'll also give it to Drake.
And Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, Subrath, you're a great guy. You do a great job behind the scenes. You really do. Don't apologize for some things that happen behind the scenes. Don't worry. We're fine. But anyway, without that out of the way, I mean, Subrath, he's a good guy. He knows the stuff. I just feel like when it comes to debating, get there with his points all the way. I feel maybe it's his connection, too, that's screwing up his thing, which I think also hurt Malcolm, was his connection, just based on what I was editing. But it's just I don't think Subrath is a debater. I think he's more of. So I got to go with Drake. But who knows? Maybe Drake is horrible. Who knows? You
That's a
never
great
know.
way to induct new people into the league. Can we play that quote in front of
terrible.
his match? Maybe Drake's horrible.
I mean, he could be the best, and he could be the best too, but he could also be terrible. You never know.
You never know. All right, going into the October 10th match, the next match we have, these two guys are tied on the leaderboard, so this will certainly split that decision. Greg Weinstein versus Jeremy Adams. Andrew, who takes it?
I really respect both guys, and I really, really respect Jeremy, but I'm going to give it to Greg. Like I said before, Greg is an absolute beast, and I really don't see anyone stopping him anytime soon, so I'm giving it to Greg.
All right, Matt?
I mean, look, you look at Greg. This guy's a beast. You know, like I said, he's very passionate. He's very into it. However, sorry, I got a phone call popped up my thing. However, Jeremy, I think, has the one thing that could pull out, the victory. He also is passionate. They're going to go back and forth, and Greg has not faced somebody who's going to go back and forth with as much passion as Jeremy had. And if you look at his first question, he already starts debating his statement on some of these. It's insane. So I gotta give it to Jeremy.
All right. This one is definitely close for me. But I think I'm gonna have to give it to Greg because I think Jeremy is extremely passionate, but Greg is louder, and I think that's what's going to give it the argument. I think Greg is going to give a little more pushback than Jeremy, and unfortunately that's going to be to Jeremy's detriment, although I would love to see Jeremy bring it because we know he can from his last match. I'd love to see him show up and get in there and really fight Greg out. But I think Greg is going to eat this one out. Although I do want to say nothing against Greg. I do think there is someone out there that can stop him. I don't see him as the complete unstoppable force, but I don't think this match is it. Unfortunately, for Jeremy, I mean not for Greg. I do think Greg is going to pull out that victory. So going into the next match, we can talk a bit more about this one if you guys want. We have Linus Babcock taking on Isaac Horvat. Both players have knocked out their previous opponent. Matt, we'll start with you. Who do you think is pulling it out?
Ooh, now this is one. This is going to come down to the end. There's no knockout here. These are two guys that, they debate very, very differently. Isaac he doesn't go quick, fast-paced, but he gets his point across very, very strong with just little words. Linus, he can go quick if he needs to. And even he's admitted that knockout, that wasn't him at 100%. I think Isaac and how he debates will hurt him in these type of matches. I'm going to give it to Linus, but I do think it could come down to the final question.
And see, again, Matt, that's where I'm going to take a little bit of a disagreement with you. I'm going to give it to Isaac simply because I feel like in turn up to that fight, he will. And the only difference is, Linus did say it in his match. That was not him at 110%. And I don't think Max was at 110% in that match either. Two of those victories went to Linus on Evan calling them as kind of non-answers, not answering the question correctly. So we can argue the legitimacy of that knockout, I think, but it is a knockout. He did earn it fair and square. I think Isaac had to play a Linus, and I think pulling the knockout against someone like Malcolm shows that he has a bit more in him, so I think it is going to go to Isaac, although I don't think Linus is a slouch at all, and I do think he will turn up to perform. Andrew?
This one is a match I'm personally really looking forward to because it's two people with undefeated records and knockouts. So I think this is going to right to the very end, possibly to the last speed round question. But if I were to go simply just based off of what my gut is telling me, I'm going to pick Linus.
All right, and that is, I'm still going to pick Isaac to win it, but that is the one thing that Linus has the edge on. As Andrew just mentioned it there, is Neither of these competitors have participated in a speed round, and we've seen that Linus can bring quick arguments in the main fight, and I think that'll help him in the speed round. So even though I am still going to call Isaac bringing out this match, it'll be interesting to see how these two turn out. We're seeing a speed round. I don't see a scenario in which either one of these guys lets the other knock them out. They're going to fight it out. October 17th is a big week because that same week we have the next team match. We have the White Russians, Henry and Andrew, taking on the Muppets, which is, once again, Linus, and Zach Ford is his teammate. Andrew, we'll go ahead and start with you on this one. Do you see yourself pulling the victory against these two?
I'm going to say yes, not only because I'm just saying yes because it's me, but I'll put it simply this way. Me and Henry won, or Henry and I won, with like less than, like pretty much in half an hour to discuss what we want, and Henry killed it in the speed round. We're gonna have a lot more time to discuss our answers and to come up with better arguments than before. And we already know how the team format works, and we have more experience under our belt, especially me. So I think we're going to pull it just because we did so good last time with so little time. With more time, I think you just can't stop us. True.
Matt, what do you think?
With White Russians on this, I mean, like I said, Linus, he's really great. He's in debating classes, but you got Linus and also Zach going up against arguably two of the best debaters in this entire league. Andrew, obviously, you have done a really great job in Henry. Let's see how well he does with more time. I think he's terrifying. I think, and what I was going to say about Henry was, with him, he can make you feel uncomfortable when he goes up against you, just based on the arguments and stuff, and that's going to hurt you if you feel that way. Not, because of just Henry, but just how he'll fight you. He'll make you feel uncomfortable, so I got to go White Russians.
Most definitely. I'm going to have to give it to the White Russians on this. I do think it's going to be another close fight, but I do think it's going to be comfortability in the format, especially when it goes to the speed round. We play it a little differently there. It'll be interesting to see how it pulls out. Going into the next match, we'll try and start going through the smaller ones a bit quicker. We have two unknowns facing each other next, Russell Howell, Jeremy Hastings. I'll go first. I'll say Jeremy wins it. I don't know either of these guys very well, if I'm being honest with you, so I don't know how they're going to debate, but flip a coin, I'll say Jeremy just because I see his name more often. Is it the same thing with you guys? Andrew?
I'm actually choosing Russell because I do know him more, and I do know he knows his stuff, so I'm choosing Russell.
All right, Matt?
Basically, like, going into this match, Russell. With Jeremy, I'm not saying he doesn't know his stuff, but he's more passionate than, Russell is as far as comments on some of the post stuff. So I'll go with Russell. I think Russell can pull it out. I really do think so.
All right, that's fair. Obviously, like I said, I don't know either one of them very well. I look forward to seeing how they compete, though, most definitely. Next matchup, we have the Halloween horror special. The commented Luca Fallon and Mike Hanley. We're going to go and start with Andrew on this one. Who do you think pulls it out?
I mean, this is another one I'm really looking forward to because I know Luke is very passionate about horror, and I know Mike really well. He's a buddy of mine, and he also really, really enjoys horror. And this is the tough one because they're both very passionate, and I'm going to give it to Luca just because I think he's the better debater. But I wouldn't sleep on Mike. But I slightly give it to Luca.
All right, Matt?
You see, this is another tough one. I got to go good based on I think Luca's just a better debater than Mike. I have no doubt Mike knows a lot about, this genre, but I mean, Luca is just a beast when it comes to debating, and I think because top 3, as far as debaters go in this league, as far as what I've seen, so just based on that.
All right, and on this one, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Luca on this one. I think it's close because I do think Mike is a really good debater, and I think this is gonna be one of the more entertaining ones because this is something specific. This is something very niche. This is something both these gentlemen are very passionate about. But Luca will bring that same fire that he has in the main game. And I'm going to give him the edge simply because I feel like he might perform a little bit better in the speed round because it is something he's passionate about, so I think he'll be more readily prepared for it. But again, I would not sleep on Mike. Mike was very interested when we first announced this to get into this match against Luca. Mike actually got this match set up before he got his solo match and his team match set up. So this was what he was going for first, and then he just happened to get some matches, get some experience beforehand. This match will be exciting to watch. This will certainly be an interesting one. Going into the next match, we have Max Vincent versus Malcolm Lay. Matt, we'll start with you. Who do you think wins?
Malcolm. I don't think there's any, contest on this. And I know Max. I like the guy a lot. We know we chat and we joke around a lot, but I feel like out of the guys who got knocked out, Malcolm is the better guy quite a bit. I feel like, he's a little slower. He's kind of like Isaac in his debating, and I think his internet does screw him over. But I got to go with Malcolm. I just think he's going to pull it out, and it could be a knockout.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'll be interested to see how Max does, but I think if Max answers and argues to a way that he did in his first match, I do think Malcolm's going to win it. I think Malcolm could pull the knockout. I really, really do. It'll just be about does Max bring proper answers? Because I think Max's biggest problem was. And obviously, I don't know him personally like you do, Matt. I don't know what goes on in his personal life, but the behind the scenes on that match was he originally sent answers first, and I thought he'd submitted answers, and he just kind of jokingly wrote Tommy Wiseau for all his answers, and he submitted his legitimate answers at the very last second, right before the match started. So I think, obviously, this is an internet show. You don't have to take it 100% seriously. But I think if you want to win and be a contender, you have to take it a little more seriously than that, and Malcolm most certainly did. Malcolm got unlucky facing someone like Isaac in his first match, and I think he's definitely going to show what he can do in this match. Malcolm, even if Max brings his A game, I still think it's Malcolm by a long shot, unfortunately. Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Malcolm, I think he just got very unlucky. I think he's a lot better than what was shown in his first match. I know he most certainly knows his stuff. Malcolm's a buddy of mine, and I'm looking forward to this match because I wholeheartedly support Malcolm, and I think he pulls this one out.
Most definitely. All right, so we'll move on to the next match then, and we're going to go right back to Andrew to talk about this one. This is Andrew Hayes versus Manning Franks. Andrew, how do you think you're going to do in this match?
I honestly don't know because I'm going to be honest. I thought I was going to lose my first match and do terrible, and I won that. And I didn't know I was going to do in that team match, and I won that. So, I could say I could lose and I could end up winning, but this one's going to be a tough one because Malcolm is very good. And, Manning. Manning is really good. And I think it's going to be a tough match. I don't know who's going to win because, like I said, the last 2 times I thought I was going to lose, I ended up winning. So who knows? I don't think it's going to be a knockout, and I think it's going to be a good match.
All right, Matt, go ahead.
With this match, out of all the, second matches for everybody, I think this is going to be the most interesting one. Manning, he went up against me, and I didn't have much time, so I'm very curious to see how well he does against somebody who's Drew Hayes. And I'm not doing our feelings, but I got to go with I think Andrew's going to win. I really do think Andrew will win. Yeah, Manning's really good, but I feel like good at you're just as good, if not slightly better. It's going to go speed round. It could be the final question. It could be like a 4-2 win for you, but I do think you're going to pull it out in the end.
All right, that's fair. I think I'm actually gonna swing Malcolm on this, or not. No, sorry, I did it too. I think I'm gonna swing for Manning on this one, just simply because I think Manning comes in. He's very professional. He's very quick, and I think that is an extreme aid to him in how he competes. But I'm going to say this, if Manning does win it, it's not going to be anywhere near a knockout. It's going to come very close, possibly down to the last question. And even if Andrew does lose that match, if my prediction is correct, Andrew will be 3-1 by that point. That's certainly not a record to laugh at. But I think I'm going to give it to Manning just a little bit, just because I think he wants to compete. But obviously, we'll have to see, because Andrew will have far more experience than him in the ring, so that does aid you most definitely. Although, obviously, I put these schedules together before Andrew started getting his specialty matches, but don't let 3-0 possibly and 1-0 affect it. This is going to be a close match. So coming up November, so then the next match that we have, we're in the month of November by now, if you couldn't tell. I have myself taking on Robert Parker, 2 debuts. I don't have a lot of experience with Robert Parker. I have talked to him once or twice. He's a very nice guy. I think I'm confident that I can win this one against him, just simply because I know that I know my shit, and I've played other iterations of stuff like this before, and I've come out victorious in them. But obviously, if you guys have watched me perform on both trivia leagues that I've participated in, I can definitely take a stumble and fuck up somewhere and this quickly. And Robert knows his shit as well. It'll certainly be interesting to see how this match comes out. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Andrew, what do you think? Who wins between me and Robert?
I'm picking you to win, but I don't think Robert's anyone to sleep on. He certainly knows his stuff. And but I think just because, like you said, you do have a little bit more experience in some other iterations of this. You did come out victorious in those. And I just overall, I think you're the better competitor. And I don't think it's a knockout. I think it's not as close as someone like. I don't think it's going to be like super close, but I don't think it's going to be super far apart either.
That's fair. Matt, who do you think takes it?
Look, obviously you both know your stuff. Debate. I haven't seen you debate, but I do have a feeling, because you do judge a lot of these matches, taking notes as you're watching. I feel like you're kind of taking it in, being like, okay, this is how I'm going to beat this person, how I'm going to beat this person. And I do think you will pull it out. It's not going to be a final question, I don't think, but it's definitely speed round. I think it's like with Andrew's match. I think it's going to be more like a 4-2 type of victory for you. So I do think you'll come out on top, but I got to see Robert debate, as well. Who knows? Maybe definitely. He's like, who knows?
Maybe I am way in over my head with this one. We will see. And then up next, we'll jump right back to Matt. His next match, Matt Beer versus Zach Ford. Matt, what do you think, man?
Look, obviously, I edit all these matches. I watch Robert play. I watch Jeremy play. I know Robert. I know how to get or why did I say Robert? I'm an idiot.
Because
Zach.
We've all done it. It's
That's
late.
like
it's happened,
We're-
everybody.
just like that. No, with Zach. I've watched him. I've seen him debate. I know how good he is. I know what he's good at. I know what he's bad at. And you bet your ass I'm going to be hitting his weaknesses harder than, The Rock hitting Kevin Hart in that Jumanji trailer. I think I'm going to pull in to win.
Reference.
I'm not
Let's
saying
leave this
knockout.
video.
It's not a knockout. It's a speed round thing. When I have more time to prepare, I know I would win. So I think I'm going to win. I'm fully confident that I'm going to win.
Yeah, and I unfortunately for Zach, I am going to take you on this one as well, simply because you said about me, I have hosted a majority of these matches, and the ones that I'm not involved in because I do stats and because I'm keeping track of what questions we've seen. I've seen every match to date. You are Evan and Subrath have seen most of them. I don't know if they've watched the ones that they have not participated in as much, or they've seen all of them. But you are the only other person who has seen confirmed every single match out of the admin squad because you edit every single match. You have to watch every second of every match, sometimes more than once, because we give you all sorts of problems.
Especially that team match.
Team.
No, you want to see a real funny one. I don't watch the end of my matches usually because I watch them live, so you probably did edit it out. Towards the end of the Jeremy Zach one, I disappeared for about 2 minutes, just straight up dipped, and it's like dead air.
Yeah.
They were just like, where did he go? I think
gone
we
for a
lost
while.
him. So that was funny.
I had to cut it. I had to cut it off. They're like, wait, what happened to him?
Yeah, literally, I just disappeared for other reasons.
What's
But
going on?
I was taken. But I'm gonna give the edge to Matt simply because he will have more time to prepare for this one. And when he has more time to prepare, having watched all the matches for a reason and knowing what works and knowing what doesn't, I think that's going to play extremely into his favor. But don't sleep on Zach, and I feel bad because if my predictions are correct, Zach will come out with an 0-3 record, and I do not think that that's fair to him because he's much better than that. But I think I'm going to have to give it to Matt on this one. And then the final match that we have set up, this one I'm setting up just simply without records counting because one of these guys won't get a match potential possibly until this match. But I set it up just because it worked so well in the team match. Mehdi Raymond versus Henry Sanchez, which would be
Andrew's opinion.
would be both of their singles
get
debuts.
Andrew's
So
opinion.
Andrew, you're on this one, man. What do you think?
Well, first off, I think Beer wins his match against Zach.
Right, I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, you didn't get the guess.
Yeah, no, I do think he wins the match because I think people are sleeping on the fact that that 1 point was very impressive, considering he had like no time to prepare. If that was me, I would have got knocked the fuck out. And I think with a little bit more time, he pulls it out. Now, as for Henry versus Mehdi, I'm picking Henry simply because I think it comes down to the speed round, and it was proven twice that Henry had Mehdi in the speed round.
True. And I think that's a fair point. It's going to be close. I honestly think this is another match that goes back and forth right until the last question. And I do think Henry pulls it out just simply because I think he's got the passion. I think he's got the fire in him. And I think he'll get there. The only thing is I can certainly guarantee you, Mehdi, that this match will be nowhere near as long as the team match. So you won't burn out as quick. So we'll see how he does if he's not as burnt out and hungry by the end. And I did jokingly promise at the end of that match that on his next match I would Amazon Prime him a bag of Doritos. I will most certainly do that if it helps. I'd totally be open to doing that just because it's a funny joke. But so with that, that is the last of the scheduled matches we have. But I want to thank you two for sticking in here with me. Matt, I didn't think it's possible, but I'm pretty sure it's gotten darker behind you. Matt, where can people find you on the internet, man?
You can find me here, obviously editing the matches, occasionally judging whenever I can do it. Also, movie reviews. That's what I started this channel for originally. They're coming back. Coming out tomorrow. Expect it. Well, I guess it wouldn't be tomorrow. They're already up. It's Kingsman and Friend Requests and probably Ninjago on Friday, too. And check out my other stuff. And then you can find me on Twitter, I guess. It's Matt Beer.
Yeah, most definitely, guys.
Don't add me on Facebook.
If you guys do subscribe to the channel for Movie Battleground, you know, I know my face is the one that's hosting most of these matches, but it is Matt's channel, the other of Matt's content, because he's definitely, he definitely is a good movie reviewer. He's got short, concise reviews, and he definitely puts a lot of work into them. I mean, I'm like a co-face on your channel. I got to kiss up, don't I?
And I also, late October, maybe early November, I'm not going to say what it is, but there might be
something
special.
We got a surprise. We got a surprise here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we don't yet, but Matt does at least, certainly. Something fun for him. Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of this, man. Where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Big Kim Hayes, and also on my YouTube channel where I may or may not promise a review and never do it because I'm just a lazy fuck, at Andrew Hayes. I promise I will get my It review out sometime eventually. May not be now, may not be tomorrow. It should have been like 2 weeks ago, but it will come out.
All right, and you guys can find me on Instagram at Aaron T. Connole. Obviously, you guys can find me here at Movie Battleground on the page and in the videos. If you guys are not on the Movie Battleground page, go ahead and join. We're happy to accept anybody in and put you on the list for a match starting next year. And until then, you guys can stick around and watch all the great, fun, upcoming matches we have. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, most definitely subscribe to the channel. If you guys could like and comment your opinions on the rankings, comment your opinions on the upcoming matches, comment your opinions on possible matches, special matches down the road. Just anything you guys can comment on it, because it helps us get some feedback. It helps us improve the league in the best way possible. And just overall, everything helps. My name is Aaron Connole for Matt Beer, movie reviewer, and Andrew Hayes, shithead procrastinator everywhere except Movie Battleground. Or what was the exact words you used?
Lazy fuck.
Lazy fuck everywhere except Movie Battleground. I think mine might have been worse.
I don't care.
My name is Aaron Connole. I will see you guys next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care.